It's giving mention Beyonce from the pulpit and we will definitely go viral.
Oh, so fabulous.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. It's your girl Dumebi. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're welcome. I do hope you decide to subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, you guys know that I love you. It's so good to have you here. Welcome back. So today's video is about this video that's been floating around, a sermon by an African-American woman pastor by the name Jackie Hill Perry. It's been floating around, a lot of criticisms and all of that. Let me just go right ahead and play her clip.
I don't know who told us you got to be a witch to be black. You are not more black by engaging in witchcraft. That is still propagating a white supremacist lie that black people in Africa didn't know Jesus. I am angry that the powers that be in social media and in culture and in music and in Beyonce's music and in Kalani's music and in whatever the other, and in Santa, like, I'm angry that they are really trying to convince us that all spiritualism is the same. And we have digested this impurity and this, we want so bad not to be legalistic that we actually become profane. We want so bad to have all these freedoms that we are entertaining demons, and you wonder why you are depressed, and you wonder why you are anxious, and you wonder why you have nightmares, and you wonder why you can't sleep, and you wonder why you see things in your room at night. It's because you're opening up doors to all kinds of demons. Close them. Whatever you got in your home that's witchcraft, throw it away. Throw it away. Burn everything you got. Because we are women who are going to love God with all of our heart and all of our mind and all of our soul. We are not going to imitate the detestable practices of the nations.
So did you guys hear about it? A lot of people have been reacting to what she had to say. Let me just go ahead and play people's reaction and stitches to her video.
This lie that black people in Africa didn't know Jesus.
My mutual Donnell Wright said in his response to this video, and I'm paraphrasing, that the black church requires anti-intellectualism to function. Have you ever wondered why black pastors like Jackie Hill Perry never cite their sources, never present any sort of historical evidence? Because if they teach you too much, they run the risk of you being able to undo their indoctrination. And see, part of being a pastor is your cadence. If you can hoop and holler and speak with conviction, you can convince anybody that you know what the fuck you're talking about. The same way she tried to convince her congregation that Christianity within Africa was widely spread. If that were the case, they wouldn't have needed to torture our ancestors to get them to convert, Jackie. And I found it strange that you said we want so badly to not be legalistic that we'll be profane. How ironic, coming from a woman preaching from the pulpit with pants on. 1 Timothy 2:12, I suffer not a woman to teach nor usurp authority over the man, but be silent. Madam, you're not supposed to be up there. In the same way you don't know who told us we had to be witches to be black, we don't know who told you you had to marry a man to pretend that you didn't love women, but every now and then we just want to be extra. Now watch yourself. You're preaching from a glass closet with no doors on it. We can see you. Have you ever wondered why black pastors like Jackie Hill Perry never cite their sources, never present?
Well, I'll take you and Donnell up on the challenge. Since you believe that the black church requires anti-intellectualism to function, let's go ahead and provide you with some of those sources to prove that not only was Christianity in Africa, but it was also in West Africa prior to the transatlantic slave trade. Let's go. The first source I'm going to need you to go ahead and pick up is Thomas Oden's How Africa Shaped the Christian Mind, where in it he says Africa played a decisive role in the formation of Christian culture. Decisive intellectual achievements of Christianity were explored and understood first in Africa before they were recognized in Europe, and a millennium before they found their way into North America. Furthermore, the classic Christian mind is significantly shaped by the African imagination spawned on African soil. It bears the stamp of philosophical analysis, moral insight, discipline, and scriptural interpretations that bloomed first in Africa before anywhere else. From the very beginning of the church, there were people of color in Jerusalem on the day the church was birthed out. There were people there of color from places like Libya, Cyrene, and Egypt. Europe didn't give Africa Christianity. Africa gave Europe Christianity. Christianity went to enter Europe on Paul's second missionary journey, and Acts 13 says that 2 of the 3 people that laid hands on Paul before he went to take the gospel to Europe, 2 of those 3 were black men. One of them, Lucius of Cyrene in Africa, and the other one, Simeon, called the Niger, which literally means the black man. You know anything about church history, you'll know that the first Christian nation in the entire world was King Ezana's Aksumite Empire, which converted to Christianity without having to torture and kill people in order to do it. One of the foremost scholars on the subject is Dr. Vince Bantu, and he talks about how Nubia and Ethiopia were the only urbanized black civilizations in the first few centuries of the church, but then it began to spread to places like Mali, Ghana, the Congo, and Zimbabwe as well during trade. And then he talks about a quote from King Mansa Musa that says in the Mali Empire that there were Christians in his kingdom. Let's look at that primary source. Here's the direct quote from a Muslim historian that demonstrates that there were people in the Mali Empire in West Africa that owned land that produced gold. And every time they tried to come in and conquer that land by force, the gold stopped producing. Did you know that one of the primary reasons we understand the triune nature of God is because it was a black man from North Africa named Tertullian of Carthage that came up with the word Trinity to describe God's nature as being triune? The world's first seminary, the world's first university in Alexandria, Egypt, the way that Christian councils were developed, the way that Christian exegesis was done was all formed and developed in Africa. Not only that, since you want to talk about the way that black preachers preach, did you know the way that they honed their dialectical skills and rhetorical skills was all honed in Africa? So perhaps the next time before you try to quote a scripture out of context, you might look up some of that Christian exegesis and learn how to accurately interpret the scripture. Christianity is not a white man's religion, and only a black person who is anti-intellectual and unaware of their own history would continue to perpetrate that lie and share it to other people.
Let's talk about this video.
I don't know who told us you got to be a witch to be black.
A formerly trained seminarian whose research centers the study of black faith and life, I can tell you that the white supremacist lie is the idea that because Christianity simply existed somewhere in Africa, that means Christianity was widespread. In West and Central Africa, where the majority of enslaved Africans were taken from, there is very slim evidence of Christianity being practiced there before colonialism, and even less evidence of it being widespread. Before Christian colonialism, Western and Central Africa had many traditional religions that worshiped multiple deities and spirits. They saw divinity in nature. These religions were often polytheistic and animistic. Many cultures practiced syncretism, where they held multiple spiritual beliefs at the same time. Christian supremacy, the belief that Christianity is the one and only true religion, that it is the only path and way to experience true spirituality. These ideas were the direct result of white supremacist colonialism, a system so effective that it still has a black woman in 2023 demonizing African spiritual practices, still calling black women witches and calling non-Christian spiritual practice detestable and impure.
Angry that they are really trying to convince us that all spiritualism is the same. And we have digested this impurity and this, we want so bad not to be legalistic that we actually become profane.
You don't truly understand the nuances of white supremacy if you don't understand how it informs your spirituality. If you don't see the direct white supremacist connections in using language like impure and detestable when describing expressions of black spiritual practice that don't line up with white evangelical Christianity. This is a page right out of the colonizer's playbook. So yes, all spiritualism isn't the same, but let's place that in context and understand the role that white supremacy plays in determining what spiritual practices are godly and which ones are demonic. People also consistently bring up the Ethiopian Orthodox Church as evidence of Christianity in pre-colonial Africa. But Ethiopia is in East Africa and was not involved in the Middle Passage. Furthermore, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church practiced Christianity in a very different way than Western Christianity does today. Case in point, the veneration of ancestors was an important part of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. But this is something that the Western Church and likely Jackie Hill Perry would call demonic. And speaking of demons,
we want so bad to have all these freedoms that we are entertaining demons, and you wonder why you are depressed, and you wonder why you are anxious, and you wonder why you have nightmares, and you wonder why you can't sleep, and you wonder why you see things in your room at night. It's because you're opening up doors.
How many people, how many black people, how many black women have been told that their very real challenges like insomnia, anxiety, and depression were the result of demons? I think we've lost count. This is spiritual bypassing. It is the use of spiritual ideas, practices, and beliefs as a way to sidestep or bypass the uncomfortable or challenging aspects of life, rather than confronting them directly. That if people don't actually have the gift of clairvoyance, that they may be impacted by their very real religious trauma. Trauma that taught them to be hypervigilant and feel like something is lurking in every dark shadow, making them anxious or making it difficult for them to go to sleep. That the fear of eternal separation from God from things like passing thoughts or natural human desires can cause depression. The church continues to use fear-mongering, spiritual manipulation, and spiritual bypassing, anti-intellectualism, and anti-black spiritual beliefs as a way to sway people. People are tired, and they deserve understandings of spirituality and spiritual practice that brings them peace, clarity, and alignment. Ones that don't have roots in white supremacy and colonialism.
I don't know who told us you got to be a witch to be black.
Listen, Jackie, I know for a fact we Africans did not know Jesus before the colonizer, before that Greek missionary Frumentius came and converted King Azana of Ethiopia to Christianity in the 4th century AD, when he went on to convert everybody else to Christianity for political reasons. But you know we did know, and still know to this day, them trees that they cut down to make the wood for that cross. I would suggest you research your religion and Africa before you start talking about what we do and didn't know, because clearly you don't know.
Who told us you got to be a witch to be black?
Witchcraft honors the earth as our spiritual mother, the goddess, and the sky, and the wilderness of nature as our spiritual father, the horned god. In practice, this means that we venerate nature and the planet upon which we live. We endeavor not to harm anyone or anything, because to us, these are all our brothers and sisters with an equal right to exist. Witchcraft is a tradition that works to harm none in thought, word, or deed. Witches work by peaceful means, seeking to unite rather than to divide, to be of service to our communities, and to be the healers, counselors, and the guardians of all life on earth. This is because we see ourselves as the children of the goddess and the horned god, who we venerate. When we acknowledge this truth within us, we can only ever love and look after what they have so lovingly created for us.
Now, what's wrong with that? Quickly.
Let's talk about anti-black black pastors.
Know who told us you got to be a witch to be black? You are not more black by engaging in witchcraft.
Jackie Perry's sermon is a prime example of what happens when the church becomes too anti-intellectual. She thinks she's challenging white supremacy, but she's actually perpetuating it. In The Souls of Womanfolk by Professor Alexis Wells, who's an amazing professor at Stanford University, she talks about how, what we assign to be a religion and what we deny to be a legitimate religion is actually a racial and colonial project. So when we call witchcraft demonic, particularly black, spiritual and mystical practices demonic, we're actually engaging in white supremacy by denying that, non-Christian practices are still legitimate religious practices. And what's so sad about Jackie Hill Perry's sermon is that when we do the reading, when we look at the amazing work and research that's out there, we see how, black enslaved women push back against colonialism and white supremacy under enslavement by using a variety of religious practices. Through sacred naming practices, through birthing rituals, and through other ways that they engage spirit power and God, black women kept a community, the black community, encouraged while experiencing the torment and torture of enslavement. That is beautiful and powerful. So when from the pulpit, we malign witchcraft as demonic, when we shame black people for engaging in religious practices that are not Christianity, we're not only practicing white supremacy now, but we're also erasing the deep history of resistance that comes from a variety of religious traditions. Ultimately, Jackie Hill Perry's sermon denies Christianity as a colonial project, as a way that white people justified the scramble for Africa, the Middle Passage, and enslavement, the way that black people were maligned as demonic because we were seen as farther from God. And the way that our enslavement was justified from this idea, the idea that we were so far from God, that the best that we could hope for was being under the hand of white supremacy. That sounds demonic to me. That sounds evil to me.
That black people in Africa didn't know Jesus.
None of you have ever managed to explain to me this phenomena and obsession that you have by saying how Christianity, Jesus was already in Africa and blue, right? It's like, well, if that's the case, let's say your logic is true somewhere in Narnia. If that's the case, then why are you to this day, you still have to convert people? You still have to baptize people, while you still have missionaries that need to go to the continent of Africa, while we still to this day, they still find groups of people, many places where they don't know Jesus. If he was in fact already known on that continent, shouldn't everybody know who he is? And on top of that, at the moment, there's like 2 or 3 pastors who are being investigated because they told their people, their church members, right, in the name of Jesus, that if they starve themselves to death, they're going to meet Jesus faster. It is one thing to say these people are gullible and these pastors were lying. They're using Jesus' name in vain. Sure. So why didn't Jesus, when he saw his name being used in vain, show up to intervene so that people, innocent people, don't just like that? Why? This is also in Africa, by the way. This happened 2 weeks ago. And when you want to talk about your Christianity, your Jesus, and how much you love him, he don't even know you, it's always one of those things where African spirituality has to be demonized. Who are you in competition with? Or do you fear competition? Do you feel threatened by African spirituality somehow? I mean, Jesus is supposed to be this all powerful and mighty, right? You guys should feel comfortable in that particular department. Why worry about African spirituality? It's not that big of a deal, right? And on top of that, you're wearing pants as a woman with your hair out and tattoos on a pulpit preaching? Isn't that illegal? Isn't that against the book of Narnia? It's like you are literally blocking your own space to Sky Daddy. Come on now.
Let's talk about the black church and how they consistently chop off their nose to spite their face. And when it comes down to galvanizing black people and black culture, consistently the villainization, the overzealous appeal around this Eurocentric Christian belief system, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. When are we as a people going to be able to have our own culture? Because Christianity, not the Eurocentric Christianity, is not our culture. Whatever they had in Africa is not what you're teaching, sis. It ain't what you teaching. And it ain't what your people hear. It is not what your congregation hears. What your congregation hears is that witchcraft is bad, vilify people who practice witchcraft, and now everything is considered witchcraft. You on social media? That's witchcraft. Oh, you pray to your ancestors? You got an altar? That's witchcraft. Oh, you eat on Sundays like a ritual? Oh, that's witchcraft. Everything is witchcraft. Oh, you burn candles and sage? Oh, that's witchcraft. So now, without any context, you have left your people to their own devices and their own conclusions. Without any context, and you have now vilified a multitude of different subcultures within the black culture, and you've done no galvanizing of the people. You've created more dissent. You've created more division. And I feel like that's witchcraft. That's witchcraft right there. To divide a people with your words, you cast a spell. That sounds like you cast a spell, sis. You better go in your prayer closet, get your oils and your handkerchiefs, and you better pray. Pray that your Sky Daddy removes that spirit of witchcraft from you, for the way that you just absolutely disseminated lies onto these people's ears, so that they should go out and they should breathe it onto other people's ears and just blow hate out of their faces. Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to be hateful. Nothing that you said came from love. Not a single goddamn word.
I don't know who told us you got to be a witch to be black.
Jackie Hill Perry is a product of Christian supremacy. I was once a product of Christian supremacy as well. It is when you think your religious beliefs are superior and supreme to everybody else's, and so you use Christian language to dominate other people. And to be quite honest, in 2023, if we continue in this level of misinformation and ignorance, it is because we either want to be or we're under a serious spell. Because if y'all don't know by now that Christian practices are absolutely witchcraft practices, you are delusional like I once was. Christians invoke spirits. Christians talk to the dead. Christians use word magic and spells and curses. They pray and ask God to harm their enemies. They pray and try to change the mind of God, which is the manipulation of energy, and that's control when you're trying to control outcomes. All of that is witchcraft. They use olive oil, They speak in tongues. They go into trances. They are possessed by spirits, including the Holy Spirit. All of that is the textbook definition of witchcraft. But because you're under the spell of Christian supremacy and colonization, it is your colonizer who has convinced you that any variation of spirituality outside of Christianity is demonic. And we have allowed ourselves to be brainwashed and manipulated by the very people who have oppressed our people for hundreds of years. And let me remind you, Ethiopia is the part of Africa that everybody wants to talk about in terms of Christianity being practiced there. Africa is a huge continent, and Ethiopia is a very small part of Africa. And the type of Christianity that was practiced in Ethiopia is not the same Christianity that's practiced here in America. Ethiopian Christians practice ancestral veneration. They practice witchcraft, nature worship. I could go on and on and on. Furthermore, Jesus is a Roman invention. It's really sad to watch Black women, Black people in general in 2023 still under this indoctrination, under the spell of Christian supremacy.
In music, and in Beyonce's music, and in Kalani's music, and in...
I'm angry too, sis. I can't understand for the life of me why y'all just won't leave these people alone. These people are out here drinking their water, minding their own spiritual journey business, directly connecting with God and trying to discover what is it that I'm here to do? What is my assignment on the earth? And y'all just keep bothering them. And I'm angry because I'm also trying to figure out why it is that y'all keep calling for Beyonce when she didn't send for y'all. She doesn't purport to be a religious leader or speak on behalf of any kind of religious institution, but she keeps coming up in the pulpit of religious institutions. It's giving mention Beyonce from the pulpit and we will definitely go viral. It's giving we have way too many issues than we care to address. I have an idea. Why don't we just project the issues onto someone who doesn't profess to be a religious or ministry leader and who isn't connected or affiliated with any particular organized church, established, or religion, and we can just use her as a red herring. The only freedom that many are seeking through a spiritual journey, sis, is simply peace. Not to be loose or wild or out of control, but rather to forego the constant chastisement. Sis, we tired. We're tired of always walking in fear and that we're going to burn in eternity for hell, or we haven't done enough to get into heaven. Because we're told on one hand that we're not worthy, but on the other hand that we're made in the likeness and image of God. Maybe you can help me make sense of that. People are seeking freedom from financial and emotional and spiritual abuse that they have encountered at the hands of religious leaders. We're told that these are the people that are supposed to be watching over our soul. And for those of us that are melanated, many people on a spiritual journey are just trying to get some understanding. They're trying to understand, once they decolonize their faith, what was the original faith of our ancestors several generations back? Just what was it from the beginning? And that's the freedom that they're seeking. Oh, and sidebar, ain't nobody wondering where the demonic activity came from that was present in their lives in the form of nightmares, depression, and anxiety that you mentioned. Most are actually pretty clear that it came from a constant diet of spiritual and biblical manipulation and a cornucopia of foolish and hypocritical behavior by some religious leaders that continues to this day to be ignored and go unaddressed.
Black people in Africa didn't know...
What happened to the black church, man? Like, niggas used to preach about real shit that was affecting our communities. But now, they're just spreading blatant misinformation and talking about some witchcraft. Like, we are losing recipes. The Africans that supported Christianity that she's talking about were from East Africa, and our ancestors, the black people who exist today, were not from East Africa. We were from West and Central Africa, and they were not Christians. The black people that exist today, here, right now, would not be Christians if it weren't for slavery. And I think niggas really don't understand that. Like, indoctrination is a motherfucker. White people literally rewrote lines in the Bible to indoctrinate us into slavery and Christianity by making us believe that we were meant to be slaves by God, bro. And years later, we're seeing the consequences and effects of that shit with people like her calling all these pre-colonial African religions witchcraft. Like, are you fucking serious? I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind, because if you watch that entire video, she starts to talk about demonic music and brings up Beyonce and Kalani for some reason. Like it's like, oh my god, out of all the shit that's going on in the real world, shit that's actually affecting our communities, shit that's going to affect our communities, and you worried about fucking Kalani and Beyonce singing about her fucking freakum dress. Like, okay, bro, like I don't know what is it with black Christians and being focused, like literally perpetually being focused on the wrong shit, bro. Y'all niggas used to be talking about something. Y'all used to be in them churches preaching about real shit. But you're not doing that shit no more, bro. Like, get back to it. We're losing recipes.
So you guys have heard everything that they said. You can see that the camp is divided. You know, when it comes to anything that has to do with spirituality, I do not speak much on it because I believe that it's a personal journey for everybody, and everybody's at different points of their lives. We've had different experiences and all of that. But I personally am a Christian and I'm a Catholic. Yeah, I was born into a Catholic family. In Nigeria, we have a lot of Catholics because the missionaries came, and depending on where in Nigeria your ancestors are from, depending on the missionaries that got there first, that is very likely the arm of Christianity or Islam that your people are going to practice. So from where I'm from in Nigeria, I'm Igbo, I'm from Anambra State, we have a lot of Catholics. Okay, so prior to me becoming woke, in quotes, I don't know if I should describe myself as a woke person, but yeah, prior to me trying to learn more about the African diaspora and history and everything that's been done to our people and all of that, I just used to see religion as religion. You know, in Nigeria we have majorly Christians and Muslims, and then we have some people that also practice like African spirituality and the traditional religions, right? So it was just religion. It was when I started looking into this wokeness and all of that that I discovered that a lot of people outside Nigeria, outside Africa, did not really like Catholicism. They critiqued it a lot. It was then that I also realized that, you know, a lot of people outside Africa are practicing African traditional religion and other forms of religion as well. It was also when I started looking at that I found people saying Jesus is black and not white, because it was like everything just became different. I've started seeing things differently, and I've realized that the more you look into it, look into our history, look into slavery, colonialism, and all the tools that the white man used to control and oppress, when you begin to look deep, you begin to question a lot of things about religion and, you know, how real it is and all of that. But I think that is a rabbit hole that I'm not ready to go down. I do not want to, because I find a lot of people that go down this rabbit hole kind of deconstruct their Christianity. They leave the church. Some of them still practice their belief in God and Christ and all of that, but they are no longer practicing Christians. And I'm not sure that that is a journey I'm ready to go down right now. But one thing that I know is I'm a Christian. I believe in God and all of that. And I do not do anything, like when it comes to witchcraft, I stay away from witchcraft. But one thing that I noticed in what the pastor said and the responses that were given is that people were equating the witchcraft that she was talking about to African spirituality. Over here, there are two different things. Witchcraft, most people see that as, you know, manipulating people and is used to also cause harm and evil to people, while African religion is not necessarily seen as evil, even though the Christians and, you know, Muslims very likely frown at it, right? So it's just all new to me. I really wish the pastor had given us like real facts and proof. Like, could she have given us a book to read, or where did she get her facts from that there was already Christianity in Africa before, you know, the colonizers came? I would have loved to read that up. But one thing that I know is that from what a lot of Nigerians know with our history and everything is, in Nigeria, I don't think there was any Christianity before the white man came. You will see our grandparents talking about how the white man came and came with his religion. The Arabs brought Islam. The white people brought the Christianity. We have Methodists here. We have the Protestants here. That is the Anglican Church. We have the Catholics here, and then we have Pentecostal churches as well, and all of that. There are different churches as well that I'm not mentioning. Our people were practically forced to accept Christianity. But I know that in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, there are places in Africa that are mentioned, you know, Egypt, Ethiopia. So maybe those are the people that had Christianity before the colonial masters. And that is other parts of Africa, not West Africa. Really, that's all I can say about this topic. I don't know. What do you guys think about what she said? people were very angry. And I think the fact that she mentioned Beyonce, Anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Please, I'm willing to be educated. Let me know in the comment section, was there Christianity in Africa before the white man came, and what form of Christianity? Because I don't believe it's with the same form of Christianity that we are practicing now, right? And what parts of Africa? Because I don't think it was in West Africa as well before the white man came. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as well. Subscribe if you haven't. Also turn on notifications. That way YouTube will let you guys know whenever I have a new video up. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.